What's up, everybody? This is the Can-Am Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host for today, Aetan Hensby. Ryan's feeling a little under the weather, so I'm going to try to hold the fort together with none other than the two-time champion, Tyler Ram. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's a pretty exciting weekend we just saw. It wasn't exciting for a lot of fans who have a lot of big-name players, though, because you saw a lot of good players go down, so that's something we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to talk about it, but I know some of us are having pretty rough weekends here.
Yeah, it was definitely a bloody Sunday, but before we jump into that, I just want to remind everyone about our drive for 500. We are giving away a signed Amari Cooper jersey, and here's the details.
Join us in our drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the Can-Am Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. This is your host, Aetan Hensby, with two-time champ Tyler Ram. I just got to get some house cleaning items out of the way first. I made a wager with this guy, and I didn't own up to it in the last podcast, so I have a little bit of a speech here to give about the excellency of the Los Angeles Rams, who are the best team in the NFC. This is a dynamite team who absolutely boot-stomped my team week one, which is why I got to act like they're the best team in the world, even if I don't fully believe it. But we got to say it was an exciting game watching Aaron Donald absolutely steamroll my guys, and that's enough about week one. We got to jump into what we're actually supposed to be talking about today, which is Football Sunday, aka The Walking Dead. This has been an absolutely crazy Sunday, and Tyler, what have you ever seen anything like this with this many injuries of key players, fantasy relevant and also just team relevant?
No, A10, I have not seen a weekend like this. This has been crazy. So we saw some top name players go down. We saw some medium name players go down. We even saw defensive players go down. So really, it's been a rough weekend. For everyone in the league, whether it's fantasy or just real life football, everybody's hurting after this weekend. So hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. Hopefully this is the worst of it, and we're gonna get over the hump soon. But there's some players that are not even coming back, which brings me to my first player I want to talk about. Second overall in most people's pools, Saquon Barkley, done for this season. This guy unfortunately tore his ACL. He announced he's having surgery today, or the announcement was today. He'll be having it shortly. And it means his 2020 campaign's over, which for Giants fans, first of all, that means your chances of the playoffs are over. Sorry to everybody there. As for people who drafted Saquon, you probably drafted him with one of the top two picks in your leagues. And that's going to hurt. It's going to be hard to rebound from that. But what are you going to do now? So you lost your best player. Unfortunately, because he's out for the year, if you're in a redraft league, you're dropping this guy. You're dropping your first overall pick. If you're in any type of keeper league, you are holding on to him. So ideally, if you have an IR spot, definitely put him in there. But even if you're in a keeper league with no IR spots, you got to keep him on your bench. Because if you could keep him going into next season, he's still a fantastic player. He might not be the second overall draft next year, but he's going to be a top 5 running back his whole career. Or for this part of his career, we expect him to come back and be an efficient player. So don't be dropping him unless you're in a redraft league. Now, as far as replacements go, I have bad news for you when it comes to the Giants. You're not going to be seeing a lot of running this season. Saquon was a unique talent. They don't have anybody on their roster that's going to replace him. The closest they have is going to be Dion Lewis. So Dion Lewis is owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues right now. After Saquon left the game, he had about 10 rushes for 20 yards and a touchdown, and he added 4 catches for 36 yards after that. Honestly, guys, I'm not too excited about Dion Lewis. If you're in a PPR, he's probably worth a pickup. I wouldn't spend a lot of fab money, and I wouldn't be using a waiver priority depending on how your waivers work. But he's worth a speculative add in PPR at least. But honestly, if you're not in a PPR or a half PPR, if you're in a just straight points league, don't worry about Dion Lewis. He's not going to help your team that much. The other name you might want to think about in deep leagues is Wayne Gallman. He's available in 99% of leagues. But this is not going to be the savior of his season. Like, this guy wasn't even dressed on Sunday. So he might fill in for the rushing role, like the first and second down role in New York. But again, the Giants are going to have a rough season without Saquon. So don't expect to pick this guy up and have him be a starter on your team. It's a speculative ad that might turn into something later if he gets going, but I'm not too excited. So unfortunately, Saquon fans, you're gonna have to look elsewhere for your replacements. How about you, Aetan? What did you see on Sunday?
I just want to quickly add with the Saquon Barkley news with the Giants, they're losing him as well. It sounds like Freeman did go, Devontae Freeman, that is, did go to New York today to meet with the team. We have not heard anything besides that he actually flew there today. If Devontae Freeman does walk into New York, is he a player that you'd be comfortable spending some fab money on and just putting him on your bench till you see what he is, or are you not? You do not want anything to do with him?
So Devontae Freeman is an interesting case. He's one of those guys that if you saw him on the street, you'd be like, this guy's got to be a professional athlete. But he's been to camps. He went to Jacksonville shortly after Fournette left. He's been to other places, and nobody's offered him the kind of money he's looking for. So whether he's just looking for too much or maybe he's just lost that extra step, I'm not too excited about the Devontae Freeman pickup, especially in New York, where this team is, after what we've seen the last 2 weeks, this team is not going to be leading a lot. They're not going to be running the ball a lot. They're going to be throwing the ball to try to catch up in games. So even a quality athlete like Devontae Freeman probably is not going to excite me too much on the waiver wire.
I just wanted to add one more thing with Devontae Freeman is he did fire his agent, and he's going into the negotiations with the Giants with the new agent. So I think this guy is getting desperate, and we could see him signing this week to either the Giants or maybe to another team that's desperate because there's been a lot of injuries this week, as we've alluded to. Moving on to that, we're going to go to the team that actually probably suffered the worst week of every team, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. There's a lot of players to talk about on this team that went down. Right now, we'll just highlight their running back situation, which Raheem Mostert and Coleman both went down with injuries this week. It sounds like Mostert should be out for a couple weeks. He's had an MCL sprain. It's very unlikely he plays week 3. They haven't officially ruled him out, but it definitely sounds like he's not going to play. Coleman is week to week with a knee injury. There is a chance he does play, but Coleman has proven over the last couple of years that when given the bell cow role, he hasn't really embraced it all that well. So even if he does play, I think there's still a lot of value in McKinnon here. McKinnon is the third guy who's kind of been the odd man out for the last couple of years with multiple season-ending injuries. He looked really good in this game here. He caught a lot of balls. I think if you're in a pool and you've had a couple of your running backs go out, this is a guy you want to be targeting. What's your opinion of McKinnon, Tyler?
I would definitely try to target him if I'm hurting for a running back. But I would definitely monitor that situation because, like you said, Mostert could potentially play. And I'm not liking McKinnon if Mostert is in the lineup. So he's someone you want to pick up because there is a chance he could go off and he could be a big boom for you. But keep in mind, he's really he's only like a week or two player that you're going to play. And once Mostert's back, I wouldn't keep him in the lineup. So So don't be spending your entire FAB budget on this guy and then only have him play a couple weeks in best case scenario, right? So that would be the one thing that I'm worried about with him.
Yeah, I think that there's still opportunity for him to succeed in this lineup because he's a much different play style than Moster. I think he can take some of the passing down plays, but I do agree he's not worth spending your whole fab budget on. But he is a very good plug and play. If both these players are out, I think he's a very safe play on flex, or if you're desperate at running back, if you've lost a couple of them for week 3 here. But as Tyler said, if Moster is in, it could really decrease his value, and I don't think I'd play him in that case if Moster's playing.
So Aetan, if you were the Mostert owner, would you be going after McKinnon a lot harder, or would you just say anybody who's looking for running back should go for him?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on if I have enough depth to overcome it. If this is the only running back that I have that's hurt, then I'd probably put in a reasonable offer for him, but I wouldn't go too crazy. But if you have him and, say Bell or Barkley or something like that, and you're looking at your team going, geez, I'm really, really shallow here, then yeah, I mean, Fab is a funny thing. You can save it all year, and then all of a sudden at the end of the year, you're wondering why you still have some of it left over. And, if you're in a desperate position, that's the time to spend it and get the players that you need to help you get through the weeks. But I definitely think he's worth looking at. I think he's one of the higher waiver targets this week. I don't know how much I'd be willing to spend on him, but I'd be willing to spend probably 20 to 25% if I was needing him quite badly.
All right. Well, I'm going to start talking about the first overall pick in what should have been everyone's draft, and that is Christian McCaffrey, Mr. Run CMC himself. And unfortunately, we found out he does have an ankle sprain, and he is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, although he did say he's going to try to get back earlier than that. But I would say at the very least, don't expect him to be back in the next 2 to 3. So if you're the Christian McCaffrey owner, please, I shouldn't have to say this, but do not drop him from your team. Nobody should be dropping him. This guy is still the best. This guy is still, even hobbled, he is still the best running back in the National Football League as far as fantasy is concerned. So put him on your bench. If you have an IR spot in your league, put him in your IR slot. And this guy can still win you the league when it counts, when it's weeks 14 through 16. Okay, guys. So don't be dropping Christian McCaffrey. In the meantime, as far as what Carolina's doing, after McCaffrey left, Mike Davis took over, and you're probably wondering who Mike Davis is. I didn't know who he was either, but there's a reason he wasn't a well-known handcuff going into this year. It's because he's not Christian McCaffrey, and he's not going to put up the same numbers. He did, however, catch 8 passes, all 8 of his targets after McCaffrey left the game. So whether it's PPR or not, I think that was more game script that he had those catches. They probably will also use him as a runner. So going forward, you can pick up Mike Davis and get yourself a reasonable amount of touches from him, which hopefully would result in a reasonable floor. I don't see a high ceiling for this guy, though. I don't see multiple touchdown games like you're used to seeing from McCaffrey. And but the upside is Carolina will be trailing in a lot of games, and if this guy has proven he can catch the ball, he could be a pretty valuable asset in PPR leagues until McCaffrey comes back. So if you're hurting for a running back, if you lost one of the guys we've talked about so far or are going to be talking about, go for him. And yeah, this guy did play for the Seahawks, so some of you may have seen what he can do as a backup. He has produced in a backup role before. So yeah, go after Mike Davis. Aetan, what do you think? What do you think? Is Mike Davis someone you're going to be targeting this week?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about McKinnon there, and Mike Davis is my number 1 fantasy ad for the running back position this week. I think just basically that whole team has relied on Christian McCaffrey as the focal point of their offense. It's not like Mike Davis is going to step in and beat Christian McCaffrey, but if he gets the same sort of volume, not the same, like even if he gets a reduced share of volume compared to what CMC is, he could still be a very productive running back. I mean, this guy could easily be an RB3 with RB2 upside on a week-to-week basis if he gets the right touchdowns and the right looks. I think he's a very, very good player to be targeting. If you need a running back at this stage, he's probably your number one target. Moving on to
that sounds right. Okay.
Yeah, so moving on to my next guy. yeah, no worries. So yeah, moving on to my next guy, we have Darrell Williams, who is the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this guy's only ever been a handcuff, but now that he's hurt, he's definitely someone you drop. And if you're dropping him, you might as well pick up Chris Thompson, who is now going to be the handcuff for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City. There's not too much to say about this. This is an unsexy move. This is a roster depth move. This is not something you'd waste any fab on or any waiver priority. It would be something you do on a Thursday or a Friday casually when no one's watching, just because it's not a big move. Tyler, would you make that exchange if you had Darrell Williams on your team? Would you exchange him for Thompson now?
Yeah, well, I would hope that if you had Darrell Williams on your team, it's only because you have CEH as one of your starters. So that being said, if you're a CEH owner, yes, that's the kind of move I would make. For people who don't have CEH, I don't think this is worth it to put on your roster because having someone else's handcuff is not. I mean, you might hit the jackpot. I mean, I hate to say hit the jackpot talking about injured players, but yeah. So as far as handcuffs go, I don't like the idea of that low of a handcuff being on your team when you don't have the actual player. But CEH owners definitely go after him for sure.
I just want to correct myself. I guess I was saying Chris Thompson. That's actually Darwin Thompson. I got the Jaguars running backs on my mind because I've been the guy tooting the Jags running backs all year. So sorry, I just wanted to make that quick correction.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, luckily for the Jags, they found Robinson. He seems like the real deal. We'll be talking about the Jaguars in our Thursday night preview later. So look for that. I'm going to talk about the Denver Broncos running back Philip Lindsay. So he was ruled out before Sunday's game. So this injury happened actually in week 1. He sprained his toe. And he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks, it's looking like. So Philip Lindsay was, even in the best case scenario, a split with Melvin Gordon. So at this point, I'm not going to recommend keeping Philip Lindsay on your bench unless you have an IR spot. If you have an IR spot and you're not using it, throw him in there. If you don't, or if you already have someone else in the IR, I'm okay to let him walk right now, because even when he comes back, at best still split with Melvin Gordon, but Melvin Gordon has been looking pretty good right now, and it looks like it's his job to lose right now. So I don't see even a healthy Philip Lindsay taking back that 50-50 share anymore. As far as what Denver has as replacements, like I said, Melvin Gordon's the top guy. Everyone's favorite Oregon Duck, Rolls-Royce Freeman, is not exactly going to get you any fantasy points. He didn't do much this week. He was a big rookie prospect a couple years ago, and those who drafted him know he didn't really produce anything. So I'm not recommending going after Royce Freeman at all. If you are a Melvin Gordon owner, however, I do fully endorse putting him in your starting lineups. He's definitely going to put up RB1 numbers now without Lindsay taking touches from him. Aetan, what do you think? Would you keep Lindsay on your bench, or would you drop him?
If you're sitting there and he's not able to go on your IR spot for whatever reason, I would definitely be dropping him. But I definitely like the idea of stashing him until we're absolutely positive what's going to happen. But if this guy's taking up any spot on your lineup, then yeah, get rid of him. He's not worth keeping. And Royce Freeman, I agree with everything you've said about him. He's the type of player that you ignore until he proves you otherwise. He's not worth rostering anywhere. Moving on to my next guy, we're going to go back to a week 1 injury. I guess we're just going to touch on all the injuries because it's the fun thing to do. Le'Veon Bell, he went on the IR list, so he'll be out until week 5 minimum. The weird thing about this injury and this team is they were in a negative game script all game, and for some reason they still had Frank Gore running the ball repetitively 21 times for a very inefficient 3 yards per carry. So this it's a puzzling team, the Jets. I think if you're desperate for a running back, really desperate, you can stream Gore still because he's getting ridiculous volume, and if he's running 20 times a game and he gets you 1 touchdown, which he did not last week, but if he does get you 1 touchdown, he's going to offer you a pretty safe mid-teens point value. It's a very unsexy play, but it is something you can consider if you are very desperate. Tyler, how would you feel about putting Frank Gore in your lineup?
I would feel very upset if I had to rely on is he 36 or 38-year-old? 38-year-old Frank Gore.
Let's say 52.
let's call him the ageless Frank Gore.
Yeah.
Which is more of a compliment for the guy. Yeah, you know what? He's first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's not a 2020 fantasy asset that I'm excited about. He's an asset in the sense that if you're desperate, you need a flex play, you have nobody else, okay, put in Frank Gore, but don't get excited about it. The Jets are not a team that should be running the ball when they're going to be trailing in games most of the time. So in a desperate situation, go for it. Otherwise, look for other options if you can.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about my favorite 2-0 team that Aetan so graciously spoke about earlier today. We're going to talk about the LA Rams backfield. Unfortunately, the rookie Cam Akers, who did start the game with a pretty good amount of touches, he fell awkwardly on the ball and injured his rib. There is no official update on how bad that rib injury is. It doesn't look like they're broken or anything to that extent. It looks like just some soft damage right now. So he's currently questionable. There is a chance he could play week 3, but right now we're not too sure. I would suggest definitely keep him on your rosters. Don't drop him. If you have an IR spot, again, obviously use him for that. But even if you don't have IR spots available, he's still a good player that you want to keep on your bench because going forward, the Rams have proven that they can move the ball, and Akers will, once he gets back in there, be a part of that offense. Now, that being said, don't get too excited because Sean McVay at the beginning of the season said he wants to use all 3 running backs, and from what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, he's evenly used the 3 running backs. So we obviously saw that huge game from Malcolm Brown in week 1. He's not available in many leagues right now. Only 21% of leagues actually have him available. I wouldn't suggest spending the farm on him, but if he is available, yes, definitely try to pick him up because he should be rostered everywhere. The more exciting player that I want to talk about this week is actually the third option, Darrell Henderson. He's only been rostered in 32% of leagues, so there's a likely chance he's available in yours. I absolutely go after this guy. He showed on Sunday that he can be a player in this league. He had 12 rushes for 81 yards and a touchdown, and he also threw in a couple catches for 40 yards. So Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown, these are all assets you can use. They're not going to be – the problem is you don't know which one is going to be the home run hitter each week because really it's probably going to be alternating throughout the year until – I personally think Cam Akers will take that role once he's healthy and he comes back and gets some momentum going, but we're probably looking at week 10 by then. So at this point in the season, if you can get one of these guys on your team, put them on. But if you have better options to start, probably go with the better options, safer options to start, but keep them on your bench because any 3 of these guys, if there's an injury to the other 1 or 2, could become a league winner later in the year. Aetan, what do you think of the Rams running back situation?
I definitely agree with what you're saying there. I am very wary of that team's running back situation right now because it feels like every single week you're going to be chasing the points. So you're going to see one of them put up big numbers, and then you're going to get excited and put them in, and then it'll be another one of them that does the big game. At this stage, all three of them kind of scare me in terms of fantasy. I don't really feel warm and fuzzy starting any of them. I would actually, if I had them, I would try to probably look to maybe a Ram fan that's in your pool and try to trade one of them to him, because I just think all year you're going to be sitting there scratching your head. Maybe Akers does take the role and becomes the lead guy there, but it kind of feels like it's going to be very similar to what you saw over in Baltimore or what you're seeing in the 49ers in San Francisco. You're going to be seeing three guys that are getting, 6 to 11 touches each game, and it's going to be three guys getting that many touches. And it's very tough to get consistent floor fantasy numbers when players aren't getting the ball fed to them enough. But all three of them are very capable, and all three of them, as Tyler has said, if one of them goes down, the other two become very valuable. So there is some value there for sure. But on a week-to-week start, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable starting any of the three next week.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I definitely want them on my team if I have the bench space for them, but I don't necessarily want them in the starting spot right now. With Akers down, I would start Henderson next week in PPR or half PPR leagues, just because he has shown he could catch the ball as well as run the ball. So that's my take right now. But again, I think we're probably going to see a lot of changes throughout the year with this backfield. So let's see what happens next week. I mean, I'll have a completely different take.
Yeah, and I'll just put a small caveat. If we are going to talk about that backfield, Malcolm Brown is the one that I would want the least out of those three. Malcolm Brown has been on that team for 3 years, and in 2 years in a row, they have used a top draft pick to take a running back over him. So I would be a little worried that they don't really like Malcolm Brown as much as his production showed. I think he has the ability to have flashes, but I think the other two are the sexier picks. But moving on, I did talk about comparing them to the 49ers. So we'll go back to the 49ers because they like to get injured last weekend. And we're going to actually move on to quarterbacks right now. And we're going to talk about Jimmy G. He went down in the game, and Mullins came in. And honestly, it kind of looked like the same quarterback. Statistically, he did very good. He covered the role pretty good. And I think this team actually, all their skilled players and their running backs aren't going to falter too much if Jimmy G does miss significant time. But it sounds like he's week to week, and he actually might play next week. In terms of fantasy, unless you're in a 2-quarterback league, I don't think anyone's rostering Jimmy G as it is right now. But it's not looking good for that team. Basically, they're basically really, really bare on all of their skilled positions. I would be very cautious of playing any of them, and especially their quarterbacks next week. Even if Jimmy G does come back, I would definitely be looking at the waiver wire to get a different quarterback to start in a super flex league. Tyler, what do you think about Jimmy G's injury? Do you have any faith or hope that Mullins will be able to produce anything in a super flex league?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not. As far as the quarterback position, I'm not banking on either a 50% Jimmy G or a Mullins. San Fran will probably look to run the ball with whoever, unfortunately, is healthy, because even their running game, like we said earlier, is in the pits right now. So sorry, 49ers fans, but it's looking like a tough year for you guys. I hate to see them go down because of injuries. I much rather would have seen them go down because the Rams outplayed them. But yeah, as far as quarterbacks go, I would definitely try to look elsewhere. Some guys on the waivers now that are showing a little bit of promise, guys like Minshew or Cam or others like that, or even Carr we saw on Monday night. These are some guys I would be looking for instead of the 49ers quarterback situation.
Yeah, what about the new young gun over in LA, the LA Chargers guy? Herbert ended up stepping into the starting quarterback position, which I don't think any of us saw. What implications would you say for Tyrod Taylor is this? Is this the last game we see of Tyrod Taylor this season?
So it's a very strange situation. Basically, Tyrod dressed, he was in warm-ups, and then he started feeling chest pains, and apparently they thought it was serious enough he had to go to the hospital. So luckily, he was released. Everything's okay. But yeah, so Herbert came in, and they played a fantastic game under him. They took on the champs, and they played great. They came within. They went to overtime against the champs. Herbert wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire, but he wasn't. He was. We like to use this term game manager. So he managed the game well for the Chargers. He got the ball to Eckler and to their new rookie Joshua Kelly a lot. And yeah, I feel like Tyrod never was an option for fantasy. Herbert, I would say, I don't think he is this year either. If you're, say, in a dynasty league, I would consider, like, a dynasty league, meaning you keep your whole team or close to it. That's a league I might be thinking about Herbert. But otherwise, I'm not too keen on either of these quarterbacks. But with Herbert in the lineup, all of their other fantasy assets become more valuable because I think he's going to move the ball and get them a chance to win better. So Eckler, Kelly, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, all these guys, Hunter Henry, they're all going to be a lot more appeasing to the eye with Herbert throwing them the ball or feeding them the ball and moving that offense down the field. With Tyrod, we saw them go against a very poor Bengals defense in week 1, and they did not do much. So yeah, but the only thing I got to say about that is their coach Anthony Lynn, after Herbert's great game, he said that Tyrod is my starting quarterback when he's back, which I personally don't know why he said that unless he's just trying to pump Tyrod's tires or something. But we'll see. We'll see if they go back to Tyrod or not. If they do, obviously you'll have to make the call on those Charger players, skill players. But if Herbert's in there, I'm a lot more excited about them. Aetan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Keenan Allen is the biggest upside when it comes to that. Tyrod Taylor just could not connect with him worth a damn. And Herbert actually sat down with Keenan Allen. And he basically said, look, you got to tell me what you need me to do to make you better because my job is to make you good. So he's looking to Keenan Allen, and I think there's going to be some chemistry between those two. And yeah, you're totally right. The whole offense takes a massive fantasy step upward in terms of when Herbert's in compared to Tyrod Taylor. This team is still, I think that they might be the best defensive team this year. Like, based on what I've seen so far, their defense is very, very good. And what you said with the Chiefs, honestly, they should have won that game. They should have gambled, and they should have went for it on 4th down and overtime. I don't think you ever give KC the ball in overtime ever, period. Like, if you have an opportunity to close the game, you take that opportunity. And if you lose on the 4th down, you go in there and you shrug at the cameras and say, look, I didn't want to give Mahomes the ball. Sorry, like, we tried. And I think it was a coward's way out. And if he's out there saying that he's going to put Tyrod Taylor back in after this kid came in and had a 300-plus yard game and 1 rushing touchdown and 1 throwing touchdown, 1 interception, I think that's a bad coaching move. Maybe he's trying to temper expectations for this kid and keep the pressure off him. But based on what we saw game 1, there's no excuse. There's no reason to not give him another shot. I would be very upset if I was a Chargers fan and they chose to bench him week 3 for Tyrod.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So let's move on to another quarterback situation. Quarterback that some people thought might take the next step this year was Drew Lock. That Denver team is surrounded by a lot of weapons. They got the rookie Jerry Jeudy to add to Cortland Sutton on the wide receiver, who we'll talk about later in the show, unfortunately. And we got Melvin Gordon in the backfield, and Noah Fant is a great tight end. So Drew Lock was set to make a step forward. Unfortunately, he sprained his AC joint, which is in his shoulder. And right now they're saying he's going to be out 2 to 6 weeks. So as far as Drew Lock goes, I'm going to suggest if you did have him as a backup quarterback or even a super flex, I think it's okay to drop him right now. He should be available to pick up when he is healthy again, and hopefully he makes a recovery and is all right. But yeah, you don't need to be rostering Drew Lock right now. So his backup is Driscoll, and he played all right on Sunday. I personally wasn't blown away by it, but he does have all the weapons around him to be successful. So I wouldn't be spending FAB on him. If he's available and you got a roster spot, maybe throw him on your bench if you're in a situation where you need a quarterback and see how he does. I wouldn't start him next week by any means, but hey, maybe he goes off. Maybe he gets some chemistry with Judy and Fant. Apparently, he actually he's only thrown like something like 8 touchdowns in his career, and 3 of them were to tight ends. So Noah Fant might be an option that he's looking for. Maybe Noah Fant owners want to be a little bit more confident right now with him. He's also a mobile quarterback. He could run the ball a lot better than Locke ever could. So there's that floor that running quarterbacks bring. So yeah, I'm not suggesting going and spending the farm on this guy, but if you're hurting for a quarterback, he's not a terrible ad right now. Aetan, what do you think of Denver's quarterback situation right now?
Yeah, in a 2-quarterback league, there's sneaky upside to this guy for sure. As you said, he's got a lot of weapons, and if even if he's doing simple checkdowns to Marvin Gordon, I mean, he's going to get some yards and some touchdowns just based on those plays. So there's definitely some potential here, and I don't even know if Drew Lock is much better than him, to be honest. He has a real opportunity here to prove what he is, and he could actually take the starting job from Drew Lock. I don't think Drew Lock's done anything to really prove himself as a legitimate starter. So if this guy goes out there and say Drew Lock's down for 4 games and he goes 3-1, this is his team until otherwise. So there's definitely some upside here in a double quarterback league, super flex league. And as you said, he does offer a safer floor than Drew Lock because he's willing to run the ball. And with running quarterbacks, it just produces such a safe floor. Those rushing yards are so much more valuable than a passing yard. So it really adds up, and it can equal out to a half-decent quarterback. He's obviously not someone you're excited to start in a 1-quarterback league. This is definitely not someone you need to target in a 1-quarterback league, but there is some value in Superflex for sure. So that was us just talking about half of the players that we're going to talk about today with injuries. We just went over the quarterbacks and the running backs, which is absolutely crazy that there's already been this many injuries in 2 weeks of football. But I guess it was kind of expected with a lack of preseason and all these players going full tilt right away. This seems like it could be a potentially historic weekend. I'll like to see the stats on if there's ever been this much significant injury in football before. But we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to talk about the wide receivers and the tight ends that unfortunately went down, the implications of what it means on your football team, and the players that you should be targeting to replace these guys. And if there's significant value in their backups, we'll break all that down. But before we do that, just another quick word about our drive for 500.
Join us in our drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the Can-Am Fantasy Football Podcast.